For those of you who are joining, like I said, for the first time or have been here before, thanks for joining us this morning. We're extremely lucky and so grateful that you decided to spend a portion of your morning with us. I'm your host, Johnny Munoz, and I'm the Engagement and Stewardship Manager for the Catholic Education Foundation of Los Angeles. And here at CEF, we pride ourselves in having the outstanding privilege of providing tuition awards to thousands of families each year. And the only way we're able to do all of this is by partnering with the many angels in our communities who decide to step up in big ways to support our students. And for that, we thank all of our supporters and our donors. Another quick reminder, please know that we're recording this episode and we'll have it up along with all of our past episodes from all our seasons on our website at cefdn.org/coffee with CEF. And with that, I will go ahead and share screen and have us go over a few tips just to make sure that everyone is prepared for today's session. And as always, we will get underway shortly. So please take a few seconds to select your view of the session. In order to have a seamless viewing experience, we strongly suggest setting it to speaker view. We also respectfully start these sessions with all our microphones muted. And so if you see that yours is not, please take a few seconds and make sure you see the red line through your microphone icon at the bottom left corner of your screens. But with that said, we do encourage you to interact with our guest this morning through the chat feature below. So please enter in any sort of questions you may have for Paul, and we'll try our best to address them throughout the show. And lastly, if you need to reach out to us at any point in this morning session, or if you have any questions for us in general, please also type those into the chat feature, but direct them to Sandra Garcia. She is our colleague at CEF, and she will be facilitating our guest engagement behind the scenes. Thanks, Sandra, for doing that as well. Before we get started with our session this morning, we will continue our commitment in starting each episode with a moment of prayer. We feel honored and blessed to have this platform where we can learn from each other each week. And because of this, we will use the beginning of these sessions to welcome and acknowledge God's presence. I invite you all to take a few seconds to yourself and thank God for all he has done and continues to do for us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll go ahead and share screen once more, so that way we can give a proper introduction to our guest this morning. We have our fellow Archdiocesan ministry with us this morning, Catholic Communication Collaboration, also known as C3. We have the immense pleasure of speaking with Paul Hernandez. He is C3's project manager. Paul has worked in many different industries such as radio, real estate, and banking, but found his passion once he began teaching in 2009. He began teaching at Our Lady of Lourdes School in East LA, and after helping increase the enrollment to just over 300 students, moved to St. Thomas the Apostle in the Pico Union District. Later, he was offered the technology director position at Sacred Heart High School, where he also taught computer science. It was there that Paul first heard about the C3 program in the Archdiocese, and in 2018, he applied and was hired as the C3 project manager. Paul has lived in East LA, Echo Park, and West Covina over his lifetime, and is a product of Catholic school, graduating from Our Lady of Lourdes in East LA, where he worked, and Cantwell High School in Montebello. He later went on to get his bachelor's degree from University of Phoenix in Pasadena, and a master's in education technology from Azusa Pacific University, APU. Notable companies Paul has worked for is K-Rock, KLSX, Groove Radio, Washington Mutual Bank, and Chase Bank as well. Wow, we're very excited to have you, Paul, and to learn from you this morning.
Wow, I'm really, really excited to be here, but I sound terrific here for a second. You made me sound great. Thanks, Johnny. I'm gonna slip you $20 later.
You know what? You are great. This is, if anything, this is just a moment of affirmation. Keep doing what you're doing. Oh man.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to start this out with a little fun fact about how CEF and C3 are I guess, positioned at the ADLA's home office in Koreatown. Our team and C3 team, we pass by each other often because we happen to work on the same floor. But coincidentally, once we finally land in our desks, we actually are next door neighbors in our uniquely positioned cubicle village. So it wasn't until we reached out to each other, we're like, oh, hey, you're doing the host, and oh my gosh, you're the project manager there. This is awesome. Let's work together. And so the only reason I bring this up, because of course we like to think that we do a great job in collaborating interdepartmentally at the ACC, and that we come together as a huge archdiocesan family to further our missions, which we do. But certainly today we will, it's just going to be an eye-opening experience for us at CEF, because, and for myself, because I have to say that for some odd reason, I don't know much of the heart and soul behind C3. And that's particularly why I'm happy to have the honor of sitting with you this morning. So thank you for that, Paul.
Well, thank you for having us. We're excited, and I think it's true. We are so focused on trying to service our our ministries and help as many people as we can. You guys do a terrific job as well. So it's definitely a pleasure to be here and to share some of the stuff that we do. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. No, we're super excited. And you guys have been around for a long time. And so I think that's part of the reason why we're having this hour, is to just educate ourselves. It's sort of that, like I say all the time, scratch our own itch and learn a lot this morning and be able to hear the impact stories that you guys have. And you guys are widespread across the Archdiocese. And so I can't wait to get started. So now, Paul, I'm not too sure if you're familiar with our format on these live episodes, but we love to take the first couple minutes to ask our guests what they brought to drink and why they chose to bring it in that beverage vessel that they did. And so, Paul, what's in your cup this morning?
Well, it's just coffee. I had to be true to the theme, Hawaiian coffee as well, and a little bit. This is one of the most boring cups of that you can figure out, but sentimental value is here. Because this was presented to me as a gift with a little bit of cocoa and a little Starbucks coffee and whatnot that was in there. But it was from a student that literally was one of the quietest students I had for 2 years. And it was very, very difficult to get her to speak just in general, not in front of class as well, but really just going up and talking to her. She was very, very quiet. I ended up leaving to move to C3, and then I turn around and she's in videos and she's just all over the place. She was so excited, and I was just, decked by, man, that is the quietest person, the quietest student I've ever had, and now she's just doing terrific things out there. When I reached out, right when I was leaving, she said that I had a big impact in a lot of the things that I was saying, because yes, I taught computer science, but I also taught a lot of life principles and things as well. And she took a lot of that to heart. So it was great to see that kind of blossom from a really, really super quiet introvert person, kind of like me. I'm very introverted, and to go out and be as exciting and do some terrific things for the couple of years that she was left there. And it's really sentimental. I pretty much almost every day drink out of this coffee mug. So very excited, very, very excited to share that story.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing as well too. I wouldn't say that I'm a coffee cup collector, but I do keep my favorites, and so that makes a lot of sense. That's truly awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and thanks for humoring us with our little fun icebreaker that we love to do. And so, you know what I'm going to do? It's going to be kind of a hodgepodge as far as different questions throughout the episode, but something that I do want to start with is, gosh, let me see. I'm actually going to try and get everybody on mute just that way we get a good sound quality from this too. But the very first thing is you sent us this photo, and I love it because I do remember it, and I just want to see how many people remember this as well too. So what is this contraption that we're all looking at right now?
Well, that is where C3 came from. That's the roots of where C3 came from. Going to Our Lady of Lourdes in East LA, I remember on our cafeteria, we had this big giant antenna as well. I never knew what it was for when I was going there through high school until I joined C3. So that's actually a great transition to just kind of talk about the origins of where C3 has come from and kind of why we now have C3 as it is. I'd like to almost, let me see. I'm going to click and I want to share something real quick because let's see if I can do that. Okay, there we go. I want to talk a little bit about the history because that contraption will show up again in a second. But Johnny, I know you're a young guy, but do you remember the 60s, the 1960s?
Unfortunately, no.
No. Well, from history and whatnot. Hopefully that
music. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, great music and stuff. But it was really, if you think about it, it was a decade of change. It started with Vatican II and ended with the lunar landing, right? So all of that decade was just about change, and more change. And that's really where C3 kind of started from. There was an opportunity there for something that was called the Instructional Television Fixed Service. Long story short, basically examples of that was KCET before it became PBS. And something that I saw and used to, when I was going to school, it used to be called Channel 1 News, which coincidentally now is still in effect, but of course they're using the internet. But yeah, that's actually what the ITFS was. And very strategically, someone at the Archdiocese, a couple of people, were very forward thinking and said, you know what, there's an opportunity for us to get in on this. You know, we're going to go ahead and pursue. At that time, remember the Archdiocese was over 8,000 square miles. Santa Barbara and LA County was huge. So with all the change going on, this new thing that was starting to catch on, television was something that was definitely very sought after. So you know, they went ahead and ended up applying and receiving these licenses. And really what it was just a frequency, right? You get a frequency and then that frequency is yours to broadcast whatever we needed. But really with over 8,000 miles, it was really necessary to have something to be able to have some consistent message going across, right? Especially educationally. So fast forward 40 years later, in 2004, we had the popularity of the internet. We had cell phones going really crazy, not smartphones, but cell phones going really crazy as far as everybody starting to receive them and so forth. And what ended up happening was the FCC was wise enough to then start permitting cellular companies to start using these. Before it was only educational use and nothing else, but in 2004 they started allowing these cellular companies to start going there. So what we ended up doing over a period of time was we ended up leasing out 95% of our signal, basically our frequency of what we have, and we retained the 5%. The 5% is very important because that's actually what we use, and I'll get to that in a second when we start talking about iPads and phones and things that we do and so forth. But there it is. That's where the origin of that lovely tower was. It was the microwave that would receive television. And when I started 3 years ago, it was funny because there were two schools I went into that had the full setup still there, ready to go. And one of them was actually had everything on, waiting to receive something. Oh, so yeah, so it was really, really an interesting time when we were going through. I don't think there's very many left. I'd be very surprised if there is, because you know a lot of the schools have since taken them down, and we've done a lot of work with now the internet and infrastructure through E-rate and so forth. But yeah, that was definitely a really interesting story of how we have what we have today. But if we kind of keep going forward, the birth of C3 really started a few years after that in 2009, because you know we had this resource and we wanted to move forward and start. It was an initiative at first that's run through a working group. I kind of manage that the daily projects that we have, and these are a list of just about all of them. So we have Ignite that we'll talk a lot more about. We have the E-rate infrastructure that I had talked about, that's just getting schools ready for the internet. Some resource specialist team, that's some of the people that go out there and visit both parishes and schools and kind of help them throughout the technology issues that they have. We have the online learning. So if anybody's used the baptism course or the health course in some of the high schools, things like that. We have Clergy Connect. We have Sisters Connect. Both of those are phones or iPads that go out to clergies or the women religious. Also, the 10,000 page administrative handbook, if anybody's ever had to refer back to that. That was something that came through C3, as well as helping the ACC and the locations with their technology, as well as the newest initiative, which is the Thinker Tank, that has been doing some really great things, kind of getting the maker community of the Archdiocese, getting all those teachers back into creating and allowing students to free think and so forth, but still problem solve. They'd be a great guest. I think maybe one day we can have them come back. And then of course the annual C3 conference. That was really one of the first things that started, and it was to start teaching people how to use this technology. So we had access to it. We wanted to start getting it out, but we also said, hey, we need to start showing people how to use it, because that's important. Smartphones were becoming more and more popular. This was 2 years after the introduction of the Apple iPhone too. So it was becoming very, very popular at that time. So that's kind of the history in a quick nutshell. And yeah.
Oh no, I appreciate that. No, that's really very concise. I mean, you guys have been around for a long time, and that's a lot of programs, and we're definitely going to dive into a few of those as well too. And so that's great. And a part of the inception story, I think we already just covered it as well too. But something that we're really excited about is really getting sort of into the weeds and like the pragmatic processes that you guys went through. In order to provide these iPads to our students and families in that first week as the pandemic, officially hit, and our Catholic schools, eventually had to close almost immediately. And so what we want to know is, how in the world was that able to come to fruition? Like, how long did it take to eventually say that all families and students that needed connectivity, like, actually had it? Could you walk us through a little bit of that?
Yeah, definitely. And I have a few numbers here too to be able to show you. So I'm going to kind of keep sharing. I didn't want to kind of, let me see where I'm at there.
Yeah, no, feel free. And if we need to help you out in any way, let us know. Oh yeah,
there we go. Okay. So if we take a look at what happened in 2020, and I won't refer to the pandemic basically, other than the fact that it's just 2020. I think we all kind of understand that now. 2020 now equals pandemic, I think, right? So before that, we had 125 schools that were considered Ignite schools. That means they participated in the Ignite grant program. That means we had 21,000 plus Ignite iPads that were out in all of those schools. Wow. By the end of the year, we had 33 schools that were added, because that was just the cohort. It was the next cohort that was up. We went ahead and dispersed over 5,500 devices per usual, and so that upped our count to over 26,000. But then we also worked with a couple of donors that were very, very generous, and we're very appreciative in working with DCS to add an extra 500 iPads and 9 more schools that weren't part of the program but still had the need. So we definitely looked and said, what is the priority that we have? What do we need to do? We need to get these devices because they're connected through T-Mobile. They have a connection. People can, especially with online learning, it was very important that they had that connection. And a lot of our students and families, unfortunately, because of what was happening throughout the 2020, they needed to have access. So we were working diligently with our Sprint team to get these put together and shipped out to them. So we had over 6,100 devices that were sent out within about a 3-month period of time. So it was a lot of work in a short period of time, but it was worth it, because we really wanted to make sure that that all of these devices, because the devices could also be used as a hotspot. So if you have an iPad or if you have a phone, hopefully everybody knows that you can also tether a computer to it. If it has Wi-Fi, you can tether to it. So even if they weren't using the iPad for their work, which many of them could, because a lot of the schools were using specific apps and so forth, then you could at least tether to it, and then that way they'd have it at home. So that was we had a lot of great responses that many students needed it, and if we had to, we would go in there individually and try to work to make sure that we can get some devices, even for staff, because there were a lot of teachers that didn't have access. And we reached out and tried to help them as well. So these are just the schools, but we did reach out to other staff and ACC staff and others just to get these devices out because the need was there. And I do have a couple of pictures I want to show you because these are kind of how it goes when we have devices. So this is a picture of all of the devices kind of preset, right? Before we get them, we just kind of get them in a box, we unbox them,
Wow.
and it looks like this. And then we have to touch each one to get them to be what's called staged. So every school has to have its own identity, and then all of the devices are put under that identity through a mobile device manager that we use. And then after that, now they have to then be covered. In this case, so these are the new ones that are going to be for the next cohort. And as you can see, they're kind of already in their, there you go, as you can see, already in their devices and whatnot. So definitely a chore. It does take a while to get all of that done because, when they come out of the factory, they need to be updated immediately. So it's like, okay, how do we do that quickly? And there's no real way other than just doing it and going through the process. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I know that was a little bit short, but kind of concise, I think.
No worries. You know what? Is that photo, that first one that you put up with, it looked like a pizza parlor. I mean, it looked like those were pizza boxes. And like, it's like, when these types of things happen in the world, it's like, everybody, let's go, let's get it done. Let's bring our heads together and get over this. And I definitely want to highlight that is a huge hurdle. If there was ever a hurdle that needed to be jumped, was that, how do we create school at home? With so much diverse communities and families that make up our archdiocese, that was probably, I'm sure, a ticket item for you guys. Is like, how do we make sure that these kids can go to school at home? And so the fact that the iPads served as like just the platform or the tool that they needed to attend their class and get their work done, but also maybe not. Maybe that is their internet connection. Maybe they didn't have internet connection. They were the ones that were surfing all the coffee shops or family members' homes, and that is a
McDonald's.
huge,
McDonald's was popular.
I remember.
Right.
I remember hearing that too. It's like, what, McDonald's too? There you go. But I just want to highlight that, like, that is a huge thing that happened, and it allowed all of us to be where we're at today, especially the schools, especially the students, and so that is a huge feat. And so we just want to say thank you to you.
And the one thing, Johnny, that I didn't kind of forget to mention is, remember I had mentioned that 5%. All of those devices are using that 5%. So that's why we're able to offer that. And there's been some questions sometimes. It's like, well, how are we able to do this? It was some very, very smart individuals that thought ahead, both in the 60s and in 2004. They were forward thinking. They for all intents and purposes, they were dreaming, right? Well, this would be great if, and it came to fruition. Because if you remember if you think from the 1960s, that technology to 2004, there was thousands and thousands of new things that happened. And as we know, technology turns super quickly. So even from 2004 to 2009, we went from the flip phones. If you remember, I used to have my trusty Motorola Razr. I loved it, but then it became obsolete because you were texting. It's like, dee, 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 and then smartphones going, oh, I just have to do this. Great. So, again, convenience, technology and convenience worked out, and that gave us the opportunity. So that opportunity, blew up to just be a great resource. And that's really what C3 is. It's just us trying to share what we can, whether it's a service, whether it's expertise, whether it's devices, and even that connection. That's really what we're about. And all of those programs we looked at before, that's really what it is. It's helping, it's trying to work with our ministries to make sure that they're advanced enough to continue in a situation like 2020. We didn't know that 2020 was going to happen. It wasn't, there was no predictions. It would have been great, I guess, if we knew that, but it just happened. And we had already prepared the schools with training. The teachers were trained. The students had already been using the iPads, so it was instantaneous. Boom, they flipped right into using it, and it was similar, different, but similar because they were already using these devices.
Right. Oh my goodness. I mean, the number also that you threw up that really is sitting with me now is that it seems like, quick math, maybe 75% of the schools that have iPads right now were before 2020. Like you guys already had this in place, and so that this runway that was cobbled together so long ago. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but how important was that to have the success in making sure all these students had the iPads? How important?
I think the importance wasn't necessarily that it was happening, is that it was available. It was already there. It was not something that we had to imagine. If we would have had to have sent out 26,000 devices in 3 months, that would have been impossible. Right. Maybe, but they were already out there, or 21,000, whatever the amount was before 2020. It was already out there. That was the purpose of the program, is to connect. And we mentioned that in a lot of the trainings of the principals, and when we would introduce them to the program. You can send these home. These are hotspots. This is how they can be used. But very few of the principals ever did. And it was because of the fact that they felt that it wasn't needed at home. I think that might have been it. I'm not sure some of the reasons, and I don't want to put words in or concepts up there like that. But I think the fact that they needed to, and they had the tool, and it was available as soon as they were told, they went right to it, and instantaneously they were able to move. I believe it was 72 hours. They were back up and running, and having their online learning and whatnot. So yeah, that was the most rewarding part, hearing all of the great stories that Superintendent Paul Escala would share about what's happening, what's going on. To have been a part of that, a secret partner, as we say, because we were able to provide that to them. But that's great. That's the satisfaction. It's like this mug, right? The satisfaction of the growth that happened with my one student, and why I kind of hold that sentimentally. It's the same thing. It's that same situation. It's the growth of the program that happened overnight, unfortunately, under some extreme circumstances. So I think that was always been the focus. Let's just make everybody have the resources that we have. Give them access to it.
Oh yeah. Beautifully said. I like that. And I think we're all searching for those silver linings through all of this. And if it was to highlight the importance behind having technology and having accessibility to these tools, and the people behind the scenes to get it ready for you to have the tools, I think we'd be remiss if we did not have you on the show as this year is kind of wrapping up, and things are starting to open up. So I'm just happy to hear the success one more time of how you guys were able to do that. And so that's amazing. And we had talked a little bit, I'm gonna jump into the next question, about having our modem here that we have to bring our coffee with CEFs from my garage, this little studio we made to you guys all live. And some of that's all the inner workings of C3 and the team that you guys all do out there. And I was telling him, there's sometimes I may have some connectivity issues. And he was like, it's Sprint. There's been that merger, there's T-Mobile. And so I think that's where it formulated this next question is, how instrumental has Sprint, which is now T-Mobile, how instrumental have they been in helping C3 do what they do, or do what you do? And how long ago did this relationship start?
Well, it started with the second cohort of the Ignite program, where the very first cohort, which I participated when I was the director of tech over at Sacred Heart High School, and there was not a lot of information that was provided to us. Luckily, I had already been working with iPads because the school had iPads, and I was able to kind of get them working. And I guess that might have been a precursor to me getting hired, right? Hey, he figured it out. Yeah, let's hire him for this program. Me thinking that was the only thing that's what the program was about, just iPads. Yeah, I think I can do that. Not knowing I didn't see all the fine print, right? Or at least maybe I ignored it. So at that point, I kind of experienced it was a tough situation. So when I came in 2018, I said, let's work with this team. They had already started gathering a ton of data. They had a lot of information. They were formulating programs for the training, for all of these different things. And all I wanted to do was try to make sure it was a very, very easy but productive and efficient process for the person receiving the iPads. The last thing I feel, for C3 personally, I don't want to put more work on the table of a tech director or a principal. I want to provide them with access and tools and resources, but I also want to make sure they know how to use them so they get used. And ultimately, Johnny, that's what we want, right? We're giving them iPads because we want them out in the field for the students and the teachers to use immediately. So imagine if we just had a box that was just, delivered to you. Here's what it is, figure it out. That wouldn't be very efficient or effective. So the team was already there by the time I started. I just kind of came in and started working with them from my experience, from that first experience, to make it a really great experience rather than, oh, now I have to deal with this. I know it's free, but that's a lot of work. So it doesn't feel like it's a lot of work because they're getting trained. The schools are getting trained. The students are getting trained on how to use the technology. The teachers are getting trained. So, because of the fact that they had some experience. I had some experience from the school side. We were able to kind of merge, meet at the middle. And now this program, we have year after year of these cohorts now. That was terrific. We had a great experience. You really shared a lot. We've learned a lot. Thank you. But really, as much as I would say the credit would be to me coming in or doing something, or certain people in the sprint team, it is the whole team. Everybody together works. That all those boxes, they come in and it's like, what do we do? We pitch in when we can to help whenever we need to, because there is a lot of devices that it's hard to say, here you go, expect them to at school B next week, and then not provide any assistance. So, very thorough programming. They know now everything that they should know when they go through a process. What does the school need to know? What do we need to know to be able to make these devices, effectively ready to ship as soon as they get there? When they get these devices, they can go right to the students immediately. That's how set up they are. So that the team, I cannot rave enough about the T-Mobile team. They're terrific. The support that's there, even after they get the devices, we're all available. Sprint's available through emails and a couple of different things. So it's not just here's the iPad, have a nice day. They actually receive the iPad and the team for that first year and going after that as being part of the Ignite community. So.
Yes.
To the T-Mobile team.
Yes, absolutely. Let's do that. Huge piece of that pie, right?
Right.
Another thing too, I think I'll just, it's a diversion from our script and kind of what we prepared, but what I get is joy and happiness when I pass through from the elevator to my desk. I'm always passing, and I'm saying this because I see Jim on the call, and I see some of your other colleagues. They've all shown out for this morning and to support you, and of course C3. But seeing as many priests and clergy members coming to the Archdiocese and getting that tool and getting the access to these these phones or what have you, can you fill us in on what that program is? I know you mentioned it as part of the program, but it's awesome to see that we take care of the most important and make sure that we have the resources that we need to further our mission and our ministries. And I love seeing that you guys are always equipping everybody who needs something with what they need.
Yeah, it was the first program that started. It kind of started the ball rolling for devices, because we wanted to make sure that we had these resources. It's like, what do we do now? We have these resources. We have access to these devices. Who needs them? First thought was clergy. Maybe second thought, but definitely the first program that started. And the team prior to my arrival did a terrific job in kind of setting up that program and how it worked. It works with basically any clergy that's at a parish that is interested in getting a device, and that's either a phone or an iPad. It's up to the individual. We don't force it on them. We don't say, here, Father, take this, or Monsignor, take this, or anything. No, it's they have to apply for it and they have to ask for it, but they will receive a device. And that eventually led to Sisters Connect, and then of course the Ignite program was kind of born off of that. So it's a great program. We actually had a couple of fathers that were in their late 90s that this was their first real form of tech, because they had the old flip phones. I want to say the rotary dial, but not in a cell phone, of course, right? But they had the old flip phones, and that was kind of all they were used to. So this was their first smartphone that they had. I believe both of the priests unfortunately have passed. They were in their hundreds when they were receiving these. But yeah, there's a picture with Archbishop Gomez and both of those priests that were either 99 or like 100, and that was their first smartphone that they had. And Jim does a terrific job. Jim Chillen does a terrific job kind of working with all of the clergy to make sure they understand how the phone works and the warranties and all that fun stuff. So kudos to Jim and the terrific job that he does getting that going.
Are you there? I feel like I may have lost you. I'm not sure if anyone. I'm so sorry.
We can hear him, Johnny.
You can.
Or I can hear him.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm glad. I think it was my internet.
Okay.
But yeah. No, that's.
Yeah, we gotta switch out that hotspot.
Oh, if this is the episode and some of the benefits we get from it, that's amazing. Thanks, Paul, for sharing. I love that. We'll go on to the next little topic of discussion, and let me know if you guys can hear me. You guys are good? I want to make sure these episodes are good. Okay. And so I'll dive into this part. A couple years ago, at the third floor at the ACC, it used to have a copy room with a ton of storage shelves and cabinets, and that was also sometimes served as a room to take quick phone calls without having to disrupt everyone else working. But nonetheless, we had to clear this room out one day to make way for a thinker tank. And you mentioned it earlier, but can you let us know a little bit about who they are and what they do?
Yeah, definitely. The thinker tank is Miss Gigi and Dr. Josh. They really what they have is it's a cohort of teachers that are interested in kind of getting back to making. I don't know how many people that are here remember things like shop. Even some of the art classes where you were able to get canvases and kind of go to town painting something that you wanted, being creative, and all the way through even science where you had to make volcanoes, or you had to make some sort of a diorama of some sort. Well, a lot of that's kind of slowly been disappearing. And what Miss Gigi and Dr. Josh do is they bring a lot of that back. They kind of create these activities, and it's a community type situation. It's grade level as well. So you have the lower grades, the middle grades, and then the junior high kids. And what they end up doing is kind of focusing on, well, how can we bring some making into these lessons? As an example, creating a circuit even, right? So how do you create a circuit? And then they create a lesson plan around that. Rocks, and the different types of rocks and what those look like, and why are there different rocks? Why aren't they all just one big rock and it's all the same, right? So they have these descriptions, and they do a really, really great job in kind of working with the teachers to bring in some guest speakers, to share what's happening, best practices from one school to the next. And they're all over the place, from Long Beach to San Gabriel to, the West Side. So the demographics are all fairly different. But it's the same thing that they just want to get together and kind of share information. Miss Gigi shares various things about curriculum and the science, all the science standards that are there, the NGSS, as well as Dr. Just does a lot of the tech stuff with whether it's 3D printing or crickets or all of these things. So it's a kind of mosh posh of whatever modifications the school, or that more specifically the teacher, would like to bring into their classroom. They're a resource that then they kind of go in and say, let's work together and figure out how to be able to do that. If you ever remember that TV show kind of Mythbusters, where they would make stuff to kind of test things back and forth, that's probably a really good comparison of some of the stuff that they do, because the teachers bring this is what the standard is and this is what the lesson's about, what can we do? And then the team, Dr. Josh and Ms. Gigi, come in and provide them, well, what if we do this? And they'll have a full lesson built around it. And they make these Rube Goldbergs, which became very, very popular in the beginning of the pandemic. If you remember, people were so bored, they were making all these little gadgets and stuff that they would go, and famous people were doing it, not just, people out, they were like, some celebrities were making these huge things that would go through their backyards and hit their neighbor. I don't know, crazy stuff. But you know, it's just so fun. It's so exciting. You know, I'm sure I'm kind of, they're saying, mention this ball, mention this, but you know, I am just so excited at everything that they've been able to do this year. On a pivot, literally, they were ready to start visiting schools, and then pandemic hit, and literally that week, the following week, they were ready to start going out. So they had to completely pivot and then make it a virtual experience, and they have done such a terrific job at being able to do that. And we're excited, hopefully, for 2021-2022 school year to start getting back out there and kind of sharing those experiences. So definitely fun, and we apologize for any inconvenience by taking over the room, but if you see it when it's open, there's a lot of stuff in there, because literally every box, every little popcorn from shipping, all these little things are in there because they use it. That's ultimately what you do. Whatever you can find, you make it do something, right? That's why the room was kind of taken, unfortunately, plus the fact that there was some big equipment. So yeah, we'll make some CEF stickers or something, and we'll show you what that looks like. How about that?
Oh, for sure. Thank you. Oh, that's funny. So yeah, I mean, that just really articulates the breadth of what Catholic education offers when a student is there. We get so many elements. They get to, you know, their eyes are open, their horizons are broadened, and it's amazing to see how many different ways we are able to touch these students and to allow them to grow. And it's a great thing to hear,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, and the one thing I think I probably forgot is we're at the point now with just education that we're not having students solve problems, and not, at least not real life problems, right? They're kind of textbook problems, or they're problems they find online. But you know, and that's the beauty of the maker. They use the engineering philosophy, you know, hypothesize. Okay, here's a problem. What are you gonna do? Here's cardboard. How are you gonna make this into a game, or how are you gonna do this? And it's just so satisfying to see the end result from what was asked. Because everybody on this call right now, if we were told one thing, whatever that is, whatever assignment we would be given, we would have 100 different variations of that with no other explanations. And that's always the toughest thing for them too, because the parents say, give us more information. There is no information. It's whatever you think. That's the whole thing. So that's definitely the interesting piece of making, and kind of allowing them to make whatever comes to mind. Improve something, make something that doesn't exist. Anything like that. How are you going to solve the problem? Make it, and here's what you have. I use cardboard a lot just because there's a lot of cardboard in the room, but it could be anything. So, yeah.
All right. Another thing too, one of our fellow colleagues here at the ADLA and on this call as well, Catherine, chimed in and asked, there's a huge sort of monumental sort of move and in the fact that these iPads have actually provided Wi-Fi for the first time in some of these households. And so, could you talk to us a little bit about what this has meant for the families, or maybe an anecdote that you've heard, through this journey? But it's a serious thing, and it's really helping our students. If you could.
Yeah. I know I mentioned earlier that it was part of the process, right? We would explain it ahead of time, but they just never kind of went home. Maybe in a high school level, certain people will take them home and so forth. And I even think those students that took them home didn't realize that they were connected at home. But my number one concern once we knew that we were going to online learning was, what about the families that don't have internet connection? I was asking myself, I must have said it in the mirror. I said, self, what? Because I already knew the answer, because we have these devices. So for me, it was, we need to make sure all the principals are aware of this. We need to make sure that they know how to keep track. They've already been trained and they know how to look them up on the mobile device manager, so they can keep track of them and what's going on and so forth. So the impact and what I've been, some of the stories that have been coming back were that it has definitely helped a lot of students, not a couple, not 3 or 4, but many, many students, because now they don't have to wait until brother's done or till dad comes home or mom comes home, because they would have to use their phone or whatnot. But they're able to jump on at the times that they're requested to jump on immediately because they have this access. So that in itself has been a huge positive for us. And again, it was something that we were always looking for. We want to use that 5%. We want that we own, right, the Archdiocese has. We want to use that as much as possible. And having these devices in the hands of the students is definitely a huge plus for both. For us, because it's our personal satisfaction, at least my personal satisfaction, but also to help them and immediately join their classes when their classes are there. Because as tough as it is, we don't have that interaction like we used to, but they have to have, at least if it's not on video games, right? Because that's, a lot of kids jump on video games, then it ends up being at least on Zoom. And I have my niece who normally is always here. You might have heard her in the back. She stays here most of the time. And what she does is they have recess and they play and they do all this stuff on Zoom. They don't go outside and do stuff or whatever like they would at school. It's the exact same scenario as if they're in school, but it's through Zoom. So they're playing games and they're talking to each other, and they're singing, they're doing all this crazy stuff that they would normally do when they're on the playground. So that is very satisfying as well, and it's been a key component to what we've always talked about, giving that access to everyone in the Archdiocese. And that's the running joke. I normally have too, Johnny, is, we join these different sessions, whether they're retreats and whatnot. Well, what is C3? I was like, I just give stuff away. I just try to give everybody stuff just because. And they're like, what? And then they start thinking about it, like, oh yeah, they do. It's phones, it's iPads, it's the internet, if that's where we can get to. So that's kind of what C3 is. We're trying to provide as much support to parishes and schools. All the Office of Religious Ed now is we're working, starting to work closely with them to start helping catechists more, because they've been struck by how do they going to work with their ministries and so forth. So it's just it's ongoing. Whether there's a pandemic or not, we're still going to keep going. Whether there is a pandemic or not, we still want the devices to be going home and helping those same students. And now the realization is there that yes, that there was a question that might not have been asked. Do you have internet at home? That now some principals are going to always ask, and then they make sure that those families end up with a device. And there are some benefits to what happened, because it opens up what we have to offer. Just like you said, in Catholic education, we're always doing a bunch of different things, right? We're trying things and whatever sticks. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud that we're able to get out there and do something different. And we're able to get out there and do things, it feels like in a snap, although it was years and years in the making, right? Oh yeah, just like that overnight, we did it. But overall, we have no problem getting out there and getting stuff done because of the fact of the resources that we have. And I'm very proud to be able to say that's what C3, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help as many people all day, every day, as much as possible with what we have. And if anybody has a question or would like to discuss things of opportunities, we'll sit down, we'll talk to them and say, okay, what can we do? And we'll do that. So
that's super. Thanks, Paul. Oh man, I'm so glad we had this time definitely to speak with you and to learn all this. And so there's a I'm looking at your logo. We talked about it before. There's the cross at the core of that apple, and that's something that I think you guys carry very well as far as a philosophy and a mission is to continually give from your heart, the same way that God and Jesus's life was. And so with that, I also want to say that 5% allows you to do what you do, but you also mentioned that you had also donors and partners that were able to give a little bit as well too. And so that's where we live. We're trying to be the connective tissue between the resource and those who need it. And so we have donors on the call, and we have donors who watch this all the time. And so that's a big thank you to that support, that it matriculates down into the hands that need it most, and it shows in so many ways. And so this is changing lives year over year. So thank you so much for those donors who contributed to your guys' initiative to get that out there, and to the donors that give to us. This is what makes Catholic schools special. So thank you so much.
I completely agree. I completely agree. Without donors, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of what we do, and that was just a small piece of having somebody ask that question. But for you guys and all of the things that you do for all of the families, it's amazing. You're all amazing, and I can always talk about CEF in a positive light, no matter what, because not because I can throw a piece of paper over and hit you guys, right? I just throw it over there, hit you. But because I know what you guys have to go through, and what you are offering all of these families. So kudos to you as well. You guys are terrific.
Oh, thank you so much for that. We all appreciate it. I'm going to speak on behalf of all of us, but yes, thank you so much. And we're proud to have you on our team, our archdiocesan team. The ministries that we work with and the teammates that we have, we work tirelessly, and it's the passion that drives us every day. So thank you so much. I'm proud. Third floor, rock, and all the rest of the floors. We're doing it.
Right. It's the party floor. You can say it. You can say it out loud. It's the third floor is the party floor. We have fun.
Why is it so loud here, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, man, they're having a party over there. I know you guys decorate really, really well. Whenever it's a season, you guys just rock it, and you guys come up with some really great decorations. So,
hey, when you love what you do, when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. So that's good. Yeah. I'm going to wrap up today with this last question. I hear conference, and I'm like so excited because we used to go to these conferences and continue our education and get to a place where, we're the better version of ourselves the next day. And so talk to us a little bit about the C3 conference. I guess both last year's and the upcoming one.
It started in 2009 with the idea, right, of we can't just give things out. We have to kind of train people. What use is a smartphone if you don't know how to use it? Will it ever get used, or will it go in a drawer? So, it started with just a couple of classes, not that many people at LMU, and it grew over several years. Through last year, it had to be virtual, obviously, because of the situation. And we averaged about 900 people over the 2 days that we would have, whether it was at LMU or at the previous in-person was at Bishop Alemany High School. So we averaged about 900 people that would show up on either or both days. Last year, though, because of what was happening, we really tried to focus on some good content and activities, and we had over 3,000 people attend. So it was amazing. We were definitely surprised when we looked at the numbers after the fact. We're like, whoa, wait a minute, 3,000. And really what it was an opportunity to get everyone together. The first day was conversations. Let's get everybody to talk about the situations of what they've had to deal with and share. As a community, what are we doing? So we had all of the teachers, whether it was kindergarten first, and then math teachers and science teachers. So we had all these sessions that they could all get together and share and just talk about what's happening, what's going on. What do we do? What are we doing as a fifth grade teacher across the Archdiocese? What's happening? What are things that I can do here because I'm in Lawndale compared to maybe up in San Fernando and things like that. So that was terrific and great. And then we had some traditional workshops the following day. And it was exciting because everybody was very, very positive about the situation in the most negative of times, right? We didn't foresee that we needed to do this, but I guess the way we had formatted it worked well. So this year we're gonna continue with it being virtual, but we're gonna have 1 day live on August 3rd. We'll be live all day. Sessions will be live and etc. But the rest of the week will be on demand. So we'll have some recorded sessions. The live sessions will end up being recorded and available over the next couple of days as well. And anybody that's going to be looking to participate will be able to join, we'll receive some information as of June 1st. We're going to open up the registration, and then they'll start receiving information of how to pick the sessions that they would like to go to, create their own schedule. And we'll have a lot of what we had for day 2 of last year for this year. So a lot of how-tos, a lot of, we'll have people from probably Microsoft and LMU, and we try to choose really great speakers from the past to share with what they have. Not professional speakers all the time, maybe a few here or there. A lot of people from the Archdiocese themselves. We want the cream of the crop. We want the people who have done successful things to share that, so that other people in the Archdiocese can start taking that the resources that they have, and even become resources themselves, and share and just kind of help everyone.
Oh, we love it. This is part of this platform in this moment, is so that way we can connect and learn from each other, and brilliant questions, and it just further, like I said, articulates the importance of all of the ministries within our Catholic schools, and it really brings home the quality of education that our students receive. So
now we currently have 26,000 iPads on the system. Can we expand that to include every student in the Catholic Archdiocese?
Henry, if you're available to help us start staging and putting them together, then it's a big ask. Eventually, that could be a goal. Right now, it's just we have a certain number that we just kind of keep rolling out and we keep going with. The only problem that we'll run into eventually would be end of life of the device if we keep going. So as an example, we're up to the 6th cohort. So that very first cohort, some of those devices now are some of the schools might be experiencing some issues with them because they're old, they're over 5 or 6 years old. So that would be some of the things we have to look back at as well. But that definitely could be taken into consideration. Eventually, that might be an option. So.
Well, I know some folks at T-Mobile. If you can you get me your license number? Your license information?
Yeah, go ahead and send me an email, and we can talk about that offline.
Okay, great.
Paul, we just want to remind you as well too, because I don't think we have that link for your email. If you can type in the chat for everybody, in the feature, obviously with chat, so that way everybody receives it. Put in your email address, so that way Henry gets it, and anyone else that needs to reach out as well. We weren't able to put that in the PowerPoint that you'll see here shortly, but yes, let's connect those dots. Thank you, Henry. You
Sure.
are one of the angels that help us along the way, and so thank you so much for your support of Catholic Education Foundation as well.
Johnny, Allison, we can make sure that Henry gets Paul's email and vice versa.
Oh, yes.
Paul, Henry is one of our CEF trustees. Very wonderful, great supporter, and wonderful resource for us.
Oh, and definitely nice to meet you, Henry.
Well, my pleasure.
Thank you so much, everyone, and I'm so glad that we continue with this interaction, and it's really the heartbeat of what we do at CEF, and then also with Coffee with CF. So thank you so much, Henry, for engaging with us and asking those very vital and essential questions. So appreciate it.
Sure.
And I also want to just give another big thank you to all of the Catholic schools across the Archdiocese of LA. For their dedicated work, the pastoral teams, everybody over this past 2020, and moving forward as well too. You all have really put in your all into making sure that our Catholic schools are still running and that they provide the education that our students deserve. So thank you for all that you've done. If this episode has touched your hearts as it's touched mine, we do also want to give this opportunity that if you want to give right now, if you want to also contribute to these missions, ours and the C3 and every other initiative as well too that CEF does, please visit our website at cefdn.org /donate now. And remember, 100% of your donation to CEF will support tuition awards. I'm going to go ahead and share screen so that way you guys all can receive the information that I'll be speaking of in here shortly. And so there's that website, cefdn.org, for any donations if you feel the need and the propensity as well for now. Next up, we also have just more information. Like I said, if you want to reach out to Paul or any of the C3 team, if you want to visit their website, we have it here on the screen as well, www.c3.la-archdiocese.org. This is where you can find all the information you need. If you want to partner with them, if you want to just get more information, feel free to visit that website. It's beautifully made. So if that is where you need to go, here is the link for you. So thank you so much. And also, next week will be our final episode of this season. We're happy, it's bittersweet, but we will be having another returnee. Alma Backyard Farms is going to join us, and they're going to host an interactive cooking demonstration. So all of you cookies and all of you that love to cook, all of you that have that knack for giving that sustenance to your family and beyond, please feel free to join this one. This is going to be amazing. They're also going to discuss the farm's philosophy and the incredible programming that they have for the students of St. Albert the Great Elementary School in Compton. So Alma Backyard Farms is actually on the elementary campus of St. Albert the Great. And so this is going to be a great way for us to end things for the season. Big reminder, please, everyone, ears open. Next week's finale will not be at our normal meeting time. We will take on a brand new time. We will be celebrating this finale at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So mark those calendars, 5 o'clock, okay? We look forward to partnering with one of our CEF alums. So Erica Sular, she's the co-founder of Alma Backyard Farms. She also is a CEF recipient. And so this is what makes this special, to seeing the success of our students carry on and the way they are able to touch their communities in the future. So we're going to have a wonderful special season finale next week at 5 p.m., not 10 a.m., 5 p.m. And with that said, please remember to visit our website and RSVP for this episode next week, just as you did for today's episode. So that'll be at cefdn.org/coffee with CEF. And with that, this concludes our episode for today, and we hope to see you all next week again at 5 p.m. Please RSVP, and thank you, Paul. If you guys all want to unmute, give Paul thanks. We really appreciate it. Thanks for spending this hour with us. We appreciate it. God bless everyone.
Thank you from St.
Thank you,
Peter and
Paul.
Paul.